So good day, ma'am. In this video, I'll be discussing some 30 definition of terms of jail and prison. So the first one is jail. What is jail? Jail is an institution for the confinement of a person who are awaiting final disposition of their criminal cases or who are convicted of minor offense or felonies, and also the confinement of those already convicted with an imprisonment of less than 3 years. So, ang jail is ang mabutang diri ng mga offenders is either the offenders that are awaiting for trials, and for those convicted na, their sentence should be below 3 years. The next is prison. Institution for the confinement of convicted person with an imprisonment of more than 3 years. So sa prison, all of the person na mga offenders na masulod dire is already convicted na nanay nahatulan ng kaso, and the sentence na mga masulod diri na mga convicted is more than 3 years. The next is the imprisonment. Putting the offender in prison for the purpose of protecting the public against criminal activities, and the same time rehabilitating the prisoners by requiring them to undergo institutional treatment program. So, imprisonment is ang pagpiriso para ma-protect ang society against these criminals na madakpan, and also for the treatment na pud nila. Next is correction. Is the act of process of punishing and changing the behavior of people who have committed crimes. Next is parole. A conditional release of a prisoner after serving part of his or her sentence in prison for the purposely of gradually reintroducing him or her to the community. So parole is for para ni sa mga prisoners na nakaserve na og part sa iyang time, for example 10 years or 15 years, and pwede na siya mag-apply og parole for the gradually reintroducing him to the community. So applyan ni siya for the sa mga officers sa parole, then depende na sa ila kung i-grant nila, nasugtan nila na maka og parole ang isa ka prisoner. So the next is the probation. Probation is a period of time during which a person who has committed a crime has to obey the law and be supervised by a probation officer rather than being sent to the prison. So probation is para ni sa mga offenders na convicted, pero instead na mabutang sila sa prisuhan or sa jail, ang pulos sa probation is instead na ibutang sila sa jail or sa jail or sa prison, makakuha na lang sila, makaato sila silang place, pero or pwede sila for example for house arrest, pwede sila ibutang dito pero na supervise sila sa probation officer, and maybe i-deprive deprivation sa ila, like di sila makagawa silang balay or like that. So mo to ang mga sa probation. Next is penalty. So penalty in general sense, it signifies pain, especially considered in a judicial sphere. It means suffering undergone because of the action of human society to one who commits a crime. Next is the deterrence. Deterrence. Punishment gives a lesson to the offender by showing others that would happen to them if they violate the law. So deterrence is like the discouragement of the future offenders na, for example, makita nila na mapirisog yun ang maglabag sa batas. So murag discouragement na to sa ilaha na dili nila buhaton ang ilang plan na daotan. So the next is incapacitation or protection. The public will be protected if the offender has been held in conditions where he cannot harm others, especially the public. The punishment is affected by placing offenders in prison so that society will be ensured from further criminal deprivation of criminals. So basically, common sense, kung ang incapacitation or protection, so kung ang tangon nimo or dakpon nimo ang isa ka offender, the society will be free, or imong dakpon ang tanan mga offenders from the society. So marag safety na gyud to, mas safety ang isa ka society kung naka place sila sa isa ka lugar na di sila makagawas. So the next is the reformation or rehabilitation. It is the establishment of the usefulness and responsibility of the offender. Next is fine, an amount given as a compensation for criminal acts. So sa mga offenders, for example, kanang mga demeanor lang, ang fine is mo na ang ilang bayran for compensation sa ilang criminal act. Next is expiation or atonement. It is a punishment in the form of group vengeance where the purpose is to appease the offended public or group. So next is restitution, payment made by the offender to the victim. Same lang sa fine, for restitution and fine. The next is Class A contraband. It is the items which constitute substantial threat to the security of the institution, staff, youth, or visitors. Class A contraband are those items in which possessions or introduction into the institution is a felony violations. Examples of a Class A contrabands are illicit drugs or weapons. Class B contraband items which have the high potential if used in improper ways to threaten the security of the institution, staff, youth, or visitors. Class B contrabands includes those items which may be used in the institution for a legitimate purpose, but must be strictly controlled and restricted from unsupervised youth access. Examples of Class B contraband are hacksaw blades, bolt cutters, various knives, ice picks, and drug paraphernalia. Next term is the escape, the unlawful departure of an inmate from within the security perimeter. Escape also includes the unlawful departure or fleeing of an inmate from custody at any time during a transport or escort outside a security perimeter. So, escape, pagtakas. Next is the lethal injection, the intravenous injection or IV of a substance or substances in a lethal quantity. So, kaning lethal injection is commonly ni siya sa mga prisoners na nasa death penalty. Lethal injection na isak pag maiturok sa imo, hinahina din kag mamatay. Next is the lethal force. The force which is intended to cause death or serious physical injuries or which creates some specified degree of risk that a reasonable and prudent person would consider likely to cause death or serious physical injury. So it is an approach. If you approach a offender, the lethal approach is like it's an approach na pwede nimo siya maka-cause og injury or even death. Like example, imong approach kay like posilo na nimo ang offender. So lethal approach na to siya. Next is conditional release. The release of an offender to parole or suspended sentence supervision or the temporary release of an offender on the furlough, bedside visit, or funeral attendance. Next is the correctional officer. a well-trained professional who supervises inmates in a prison setting. So, mga officers na responsible sa maybe sa security and sa overall status sa prisuhan is tawag sila is correctional officer. The next is the offender. An offender is a person sentenced or remanded to the custody of the institution that is confined in a prison, jail, or other correctional facility that houses those convicted of crimes. So, offenders. Mauna ang mga tao na nakalabag sa batas. Then, next is victim. The term victim means any person being the direct subject of an alleged act which would constitute a crime of violence. So kung kinsa man ang tao na sa iyahan na apply ang crime or ang violence, so they are called the victim. Next is the penology. It's also known as penal science. It is a division of criminology that deals with the operational of correctional institution and the treatment and rehabilitation of offenders. So these are one of the types of punishments. Hard labor. So productive works. Hard labor is hard physical work which people have to do as punishment of a crime. So unsahay patrabahon sila like kanang mga prisoners like mining or etc. kanang lisod na hago na trabaho. Next is deprivation. Deprivation of everything except the essential of existence. So the prison ay pagpiriso, i-deprive ka tanan even if yung liberty. Number one is i-deprive sa imong liberty or freedom. Tanan i-deprive sa imo, ang dili lang kuhaon sa imo is imong kinabuhi o imong pag-exist. The next is monotony, giving the same food that is off diet or requiring the prisoners to perform drab or boring daily routine. So same food, tanan prisoners pareha silang pagkain and same amount of food every day. Next is the uniformity, treating prisoners alike. The fault of one is the fault of all. So treating prisoners alike, walay kampi-kampi or walay suki-suki dara, pareha mo tanan. Kung unsa ang sala sa isa, sala din sa tanan. Next is mass movement, mass living in a cell blocks, mass eating, mass recreation, and mass bathing. So tanan inyong activity is ginabuhat ninyo tanan sabay-sabay, sabay mo maligo, sabay mo magkaon. Tanan prisoners sa sulod is sabay-sabay ang ilang activities. Next is the last one is degradation. Uttering insulting words or languages on the part of prison staff to the prisoners to degrade or break the confidence of the prisoners. So normal na ang mga correctional officers is kailangan gid nila i-show ang ilang dominance by saying by degradation para dili pud magbutngan og confidence ang mga prisoner na basin musukol na sila or something. That's all and thank you.